Well, folks, let me lower this down a little bit. Welcome to the C Files. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to be in the scriptures on this one again, a devotion time. And this is going to be the book of Esther. We did an introduction on this book already. And chapter one set up the circumstances that God had preordained for Esther to become the queen uh, of Persia. And so let's begin reading. And what this is for, folks, if you're not familiar with this channel, is to read the read the Bible and learn the Bible by reading it. So you can open up your Bible to Esther chapter 2 and go along with me. I will be in the New King James Version, and please bear with me as I am still trying to get over a little bit of a sickness, so we will do the best we can. All right, let's begin. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Veshti, that was the former queen who had defied him, and so he got rid of her. What she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king. Let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to Shushan, the citadel, into the women's quarters, under the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, custodian of the women. And let beauty preparations be given them. Then let the young women, then let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Veshti. This thing pleased the king, and he did so. In Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jar, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives who had been captured with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So it was, when the king's command and decree were heard, that when many young women were gathered at Shushan, the citadel, under the custody of Haggai, that Esther also was taken to the king's palace, into the care of Haggai, the custodian of the women. Now the young woman pleased him, and she obtained his favor. So he readily gave beauty preparations to her, besides her allowance. Then 7 choice maidservants were provided for her from the king's palace. And he moved her and her maidservants to the best palace in the house of the women. Esther had not revealed her people or family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. And every day Mordecai paced in front of the court of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. Each young woman's turn came to go in to King Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months preparation according to the regulations for the women. For thus were the days of their preparation apportioned, 6 months with oil of myrrh. Maybe. I apologize, folks. Soon I should be okay from having these things happen. So, all right. I'll begin at verse 6 again. Kish, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives who had been captured with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away, and Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So it was when the king's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at Shushan the citadel, under the custody of Hegai, that Esther also was taken to the king's palace, into the care of Hegai, the custodian of the women. Now the young woman pleased him, and she obtained his favor, so he readily gave beauty preparations to her besides her allowance. Then 7 choice maidservants were provided for her from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maidservants to the best place in the house for the women of the women. Esther had not revealed her people or family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. And every day Mordecai paced in front of the court of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. Each young woman's turn came to go in to King Ahasuerus, Ahas, excuse me, to King Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months preparation according to the regulations of the women. For thus were the days of their preparation apportioned: 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 with perfumes and preparations for beautifying women. Thus prepared each young woman, went to the king, and she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the women's quarters to the king's palace. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Sheshagas, the king's eunuch who kept the concubines. She would not go in to the king again unless the king delighted in her and called for her by name. Now, when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, to go in to the king, she requested nothing but what Hegai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vesti. Then the king made a great feast, the feast of Esther, for all his officials and servants. And he proclaimed a holiday in the provinces and gave gifts according to the generosity of a king. When when virgins were gathered together a second time, Mordecai sat within the king's gate. Now Esther had not revealed her family and her people, just as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther obeyed the commandment of Mordecai as when she was brought up by him. In those days, while Mordecai sat within the king's gate, 2 of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, doorkeepers, became furious and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. So the matter became known to Mordecai, who told Queen Esther, And Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. And when an inquiry was made into the matter, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on a gallows. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. So God in this is setting up the circumstances by which he would save Israel. And he would save Israel from what's called the Battle of Armageddon, or uh, is it Armageddon? Ezekiel 38 and 39. The battle that's mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39, that everybody calls the Battle of Armageddon. Um, this book, Esther, is going to have a recording of that battle. Now that flies in the face of those who believe that the Ezekiel 38 and 39 is future to us. But I agree with Gary DeMar in his analysis of this that this book gives us the fulfillment of Ezekiel 38 and 39. Ezekiel 38 and 39 is fought on horseback with spears and swords and shields. It is not fought with modern weaponry. Now, I know that the modern teachers of eschatology will say, well, it was written in ancient language in a way that the original readers could understand it, but those things represented future modern weapons. But that doesn't make any sense. Why would God write that in a way that they could understand it if he didn't intend it for them? We live in a time when it comes to eschatology that we think that everything is about us and everything is about our future. Well, some things are, but a lot of things aren't. And I think, I've had to readjust my thinking on this. And as we go through the book of Esther, I hope that it'll help you to see that this is more than just about Esther becoming the queen of Persia and saving Mordecai from the antics of Haman, which we'll read about in the book. It's also about saving Israel so that the line of the Messiah would not be interrupted and Israel would not be wiped out. All right. That's a lot of commentary on that, but hopefully this will give your interest in hanging with me here. Because I give a little bit of a different perspective than what you probably heard. All right. Let's go to Psalm. And we were in Psalm 119, excuse me. And I'm going to read 113 through 120, verses 113 through 120 of Psalm 119. Samek is the Hebrew letter. I hate the double-minded, but I love your law. You're my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your word. Depart from me, you evildoers, for I will keep the commandments of my God. Uphold me according to your word, that I may live, and do not let me be ashamed of my hope. Hold me up, and I shall be safe, and I shall observe your statutes continually. You reject all those who stray from your statutes, for their deceit is falsehood. You put away all the wicked of the earth like dross. Therefore, I love your testimonies. My flesh trembles for fear of you, and I am afraid of your judgments. Psalm 119, verses 113 through 120. Remember, these are songs, poetry put to songs. And of course, it's not going to match up in English, but in Hebrew, it would have matched up as poetry quite readily. All right, we can go to Proverbs. And today we will go to, let me see where we are. I've skipped some days and I'll be skipping some Proverbs, but I'm continually in Proverbs. It's going to be 12. Simply because I've been sick and it's difficult. It was difficult for me to stay consistent during that time. But my consistency should continue on from this point on. All right, hold on a second. Okay, there we go. All right. Proverbs 12. Now, Proverbs are instructions of wisdom, something that is sorely lacking in our world today. It's something we could gain a lot from. Whoever loves instruction loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid. A good, Isn't he who hates correction is stupid. Think about our current world where people are offended because of discipline. People are um, put off with correction, very defiant attitudes and mentalities. Um, the Bible says that's stupid to be that way. A good man obtains favor from the Lord, but a man of wicked intentions he will condemn. A man is not established by wickedness. Many people think they can be established by wickedness by their clever um, planning and their clever, uh, sinister um, planning to do things in an unsavory way, and yet it always backfires. It always comes back to bite them. But the root of the righteous cannot be moved. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceit. The words of the wicked are lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright will deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are no more, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man will be commended according to his wisdom, but he who is of a perverse heart will be despised. Better is the one who is slighted, but has a servant, than he who honors himself but lacks bread. A righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity is devoid of understanding. The wicked covet the catch of evil men, but the root of the righteous yields fruit. The wicked is ensnared by the transgression of his lips, but the righteous will come through trouble. A man will be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands will be rendered to him. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a prudent man covers shame. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness deceit. There is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. The truthful lip shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Deceit is in the heart of those who devise evil, but counselors of peace have joy. No grave trouble will overtake the righteous, but the wicked shall be filled with evil. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who deal truthfully are his delight. A prudent man conceals knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaims foolishness. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. Anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. The righteous should choose his friends carefully, for the way of the wicked leads them astray. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is man's precious possession. And the way of righteousness is life, and it in its pathway there is no death. And that's Proverbs chapter 12. Just listen and think about the words as I'm reading them. That's the whole point here. I shouldn't really comment as much as I do sometimes. Sometimes I just read and let the word sink into your soul because the word is powerful and it doesn't return void. And so it does what God has intended for it to do. Where I think there should be explanation, I will give it, but these are really kind of plain and simple to understand if you really listen to them. All right, thanks for watching. And the next time I'll go to the next book that is due to be done tonight, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on the C Files.